It's basically the same as filling out a resume and applying it to an HR person.
And it's like, here, how about you value yourself now based on people's opinions of you, of just your appearance.
It's honestly so hard to freaking meet people during COVID. Whenever you go outside, everyone is wearing a mask that covers up half of their face. And you just imagine the perfect other half of their face underneath that, and everyone is literally a 10. Welcome back to the Better Friends podcast. My name is Johnny Corcoran.
I'm Erich. Welcome back, everyone. Today we're talking about relationships and the fact that everyone looks prettier with a mask on. So, Johnny, take it away with the whole mask thing to start.
Okay, so when you don't see something personally, your mind just sort of imagines what could be there, and it automatically makes you think of the most attractive thing for yourself. So it's the same reason why when people wear big sunglasses, for some reason assume that they're more attractive.
Yeah.
So when everyone has a mask on, you have less information, so your brain just inputs whatever you like.
Yeah, it's very true. Especially if people have pretty eyes. Nah, you're screwed. If you see some,
Yeah.
I'm just looking, I'm like, wow. Like, before I was attracted to 90% of people. Now I'm attracted to 95. And I'm just willing to date everyone. It's just not good for me. So, yeah, I don't know. It's pretty funny. Johnny and I were joking about how in order to really get to know someone, you need to take them out to dinner and watch them eat their food. No, I'm kidding. It sounds really shallow, but you're thinking it. So anyway, physical attraction, though, is not the most important thing. I think we can agree on that, Johnny.
Yeah, I agree that physical attraction is not the end-all be-all, but it has to be there in some percentage. So what would you say the balance sort of is? Like, how much does personality outweigh physical attraction? Or is there a certain threshold that has to be reached in either or both?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. I'd say there's many aspects that are important. I've been a nerd looking up relationship stuff on YouTube for a long time. And so they would talk about the different building blocks of things you need for chemistry and getting along and all these. So one of the huge ones is physical attraction, and there's personality, and whatever else that I'm forgetting right now. So honestly, for me though, when I see someone, yeah, sure, it might be physical attraction immediately, but I think generally speaking, I think this is like this for a lot of people. What makes them stick around is the personality, because if you don't have a good personality like that just sucks. If I just got this really attractive girlfriend, she's not fulfilling to me, like, in, I don't know, what's the word for it?
I don't know. I was just thinking, like, what a waste of appearance.
I just instinctively feel mean, but I mean, it's true. Sorry if you got a crappy personality. Just there's people for you that don't care as much about personality.
There's other people with crappy personalities as well. Maybe you'll work something out.
It could be it could just be a crappy relationship. Like, they look really pretty both together, but they just, nobody wants to be their friend.
And that will be the driver for getting a better personality. That's how it works.
Exactly. No, but definitely what tops mine is personality. I think I don't know. I want to say it's harder to find people with a really solid personality and good values and, let's say, good sense of humor in that and everything. That's what people on the search for. I'd say, at least me, I this sounds weird. It's easier to find people that are pretty than people that are pretty and also have a good personality.
Right.
What do you think about all that, and what's it like for you?
Yeah. I do agree with what you said for the most part. I think it's a lot more valuable for someone to have a good personality, because looking good is just sort of like a genetic lottery that you win
That's
occasionally.
so right.
Whereas having a good personality means being raised well and having a lot of, like, a solid base and a lot of development and maturity in your life. So I definitely think personality is the make or break. But I think there's a certain threshold of physical attractiveness that needs to be there. Otherwise, and this is going to sound a little bit shallow, but I think it's actually very true that people are sometimes shallow. And
I agree.
I would say that if they don't breach a certain level, a certain threshold, if you will, that you do not even consider a relationship with them, right? If someone is totally not physically attractive to you, you don't even think about it.
And I would argue that I don't know. I feel like there's some people that will be like, "Oh, you just suck. You're a piece of garbage because you think that people are less attractive than other people." Well, to me personally, yeah, doesn't mean they're not attractive to someone else. It's just like it's so subjective. So I mean,
Right.
you can't really feel that bad. Everyone's got their own preferences and everything like that, and a lot of that is just very, very much not even their choice of what you're attracted to, you're attracted to. And I agree with that. Personality is the top thing, but there does need to be that threshold.
I have also experienced sort of the opposite effect of not really being initially very physically attracted to someone, but when you get to know them, then, like, you become so much more attracted because of their personality. Because you really like who they are as a person, you start to sort of... the physical stuff doesn't matter as much because you really love them as a person, you know?
I agree with that too. I'm just a yes man for you, but that I 100% agree with that too, because I've been in relationships with people before where honestly, there's probably more attractive people, but their personality just blew me away, and yeah, that can just make up for a lot. So I think that just says more and more about personality and how much of an impact that makes. It makes you, yeah, like you said, fall in love with people even more. I'm just repeating what you said. Speaking of personality, a way to not get a good gauge on someone's personality is probably dating apps, unless you found one that is the greatest dating app.
So have you ever tried a dating app, Eric?
I have. I've tried a couple. I have experimented with a few. So, the main one is Tinder, and that yielded some mostly not great experiences. I know it's possible for people to meet on Tinder and like really jive. I have many friends who are with people that they met on Tinder, and it's amazing. I think that's so great. But for me, wasn't the best. I've looked at Bumble. I've been on it for like a day and then deleted it. And then I think Hinge, I like experimented with because my friend told me about it. I'm like, oh, that would be interesting. And then no. I've just gone through these cycles of having Tinder, and then like the longest I had it was maybe for a month, and then I deleted it again. Because after I felt guilty, I'm like, wow, I'm just judging people based on how they look. And so,
Right.
because I think that's your immediate thought. But on Bumble or Hinge, I think it's Hinge. There's a lot more you can see about the person, and like you can insert your own. It's like these slides you go through, and then you can respond to those slides basically almost like a story on someone's Snapchat or Instagram, and it says more about them as a person, so you can get a sense of their humor and stuff like that.
Interesting.
What have you found?
I've also, sort of dabbled in dating apps, but I very quickly realized that, sort of along the lines of what you said, it's hard to get a good feel for how a person is on a dating app. And it's very hard for you to represent yourself well in the same way. Like, I never felt that my profile really represented me well as a person. Because a lot of me is not something you get from a picture of me. And so sort of applying that to other people as well, what you see on their profile is not really a good representation of them either. Like, a lot of who they are is something that you wouldn't see in their pictures. And so it seems like a relatively bad system. Like, yeah, you can get lucky. I believe that. I've known people who met on dating apps, like you said, and they had a great relationship from that. But I think that's more of just a luck of the draw as far as how effective are dating apps.
Yeah.
And also it can be very demoralizing as well, and very hurtful to your self-confidence if you put yourself out there and you're essentially being vulnerable and saying, I am allowing these people to judge me, even though it's not a good representation of me. I'm still putting like me out there for random people online to decide if they like me or not.
Yeah. It makes
seems like a terrible idea.
It makes you pressured to, I don't know, kind of make your dating profile like in Instagram, where you show all like the good parts, like the photos you look the best in, stuff like that. And it could pressure you to put yourself out there even more as a person that you are not. And
yeah, it's like a resume for a job interview.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm only saying good things about myself, and I'm even making some things up so that I look better at this job, so that you'll hire me. That's basically what dating apps are. It's just like, it's basically the same as filling out a resume and applying it to an HR person.
And it's like, here, how about you value yourself now based on people's opinions of you, of just your appearance. Like, pretty much nothing else. And then maybe 10% of your personality that you can actually push through in your bio or something like that, or a surface level conversation when you swipe. It's such BS.
Were you able to turn any of your matches, let's say, just since Tinder's probably the most well known, were you able to turn any of your matches into actual dates?
I was. I can't remember how many, but it's maybe a couple, two or three. When I was actually just open to it. Some, it goes through the stages of just, so you're talking via Tinder, and then you bring it to Snapchat or something, and then from there, the only other thing I got matched with, like, the Spanish model, which she's probably fake. I probably got catfished. It's fine. That's something I forgot about. I looked the other day, I looked at my Instagram, I'm like, oh yeah, that's this Spanish model I met. That's Natasha. Oh my God. Okay, so, yeah, I went on one date. It's pretty much the farthest I've gone, but it is good, but that was also, I think, rare. Out of all, I shouldn't say all, out of the small number of, like, all the matches, it's like, it yields one potential, but obviously didn't,
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about how we sort of think about other people in relationships, but what do you think you have to do for yourself to be ready to be in a relationship?
I think, you need to be secure in yourself before you get into a relationship, because otherwise you become, sorry to say it, a burden on the other person. For example, we know that mental health is a huge thing, and a lot of people are going through a lot. Mental health is more prevalent than ever, or at least more out there, and we know about it more. It's not to say that people that are struggling with mental health issues shouldn't be in a relationship, but for example, if you're really, really struggling with something and you don't have a grasp of it at all on your own, what's going to happen when you get into a relationship with someone else is going to be thrust upon them and lessen their quality of life. Unless they're a complete saint and they're okay with it. But whoever said they're okay with it? That's my question. And so, if you can get a grasp of yourself and being comfortable with yourself and your body, it makes it that much better for someone you're in a relationship with. And one main thing is self-love. And I heard this somewhere. And so let's say you only love yourself 40%. Okay, if you love yourself 40% of the potential, you could actually love yourself 100. And you meet someone and they come around and they love you 50%. They're only loving you 10% more than you love yourself. But when you think of the grand scheme of things, if they're only loving you at 50%, they could be loving you at 100. And so that's actually like loving you just half the time. And so that's complete bullshit. And imagine if you loved yourself 100%. Mm-hmm. That person that comes around would have to completely blow you away and be this amazing person to be worthy enough to be in your life and be your partner. So that's why it's so important to love yourself. Otherwise, you won't be getting the full potential of what you could actually get from a relationship. What do you think?
I think that people, when you're in a relationship, you naturally sort of lean on each other, right? Mm-hmm. When you are very intimate with someone else and something is going on in your life that you're struggling with, it's very natural, I think, to approach the other person with that. Mm-hmm. But if you're not able to stand on your own first, then you're basically putting all of your weight onto another person. And that's not good for either of you. You need to be able to sort of stand up for yourself, look out for yourself before you're in a relationship where it's normal for you to lean on them. Yeah, but it's not normal for you to be hanging around their neck while they drag you along with them. You want to be able to walk together.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. I think that's something I forgot to clarify. Naturally you're going to lean on each other, and it's like puzzle pieces. There's things you make up for in each other that the other person is maybe lacking, and you fill that space. But yeah, like you said, hanging on them like dead weight is just not fair, and it leads to two parties being unhappy, I think, in the long run.
Yeah. What do you... How I guess I'm trying to spit this out as a question, but what I think is that communication is vital to a relationship. How would you think about that?
It is super vital. So in my experience, it's that communication is just, I don't know. There's certain main pillars of a relationship, and communication is one of them. And if you don't have communication, like understanding where people are coming from, like if you have a misunderstanding, like if you're having some kind of argument or whatever, even just something really silly, if that's misunderstood, it can lead to something bigger, and it's just terrible. I mean, being on the same page with someone when you're getting into a relationship too, like this is what I'm looking for. I think this is why a lot of people get hurt, especially through dating apps and stuff like this. People get led on and they get ghosted. I've been a victim. It sucks. And before that, I was like, wow, that must suck. And yeah, it does. So being clear about your intentions and just being really open with each other is super huge.
So what I was thinking about is that it's very natural for people to sort of put on different aspects of their personality when they're interacting with different people. I'm not the same person when I'm hanging out with my friends as when I'm hanging out with my parents. You know, I sort of project different parts of myself. And so it's all still me. It's all still genuine in me. But, you know, for example, I might censor a lot of what I say around my parents, whereas with my friends, I know that I'm able to say whatever I want. And so I was curious what you would think of how that sort of factors in to a relationship. So I think that being honest is very important, but also honesty can hurt a lot and maybe even ruin a relationship. And so how do you balance, you know, the correct amount of honesty and directness, because we appreciate that, but you also don't want it to be hurtful.
With that in a relationship, it's a very, it's, oh my gosh, it's such a balance, because if you're too honest, like you said, you'll hurt the other person's feelings. But ultimately, if you're too afraid to say something that's been on your mind, something that really actually matters in the relationship, that's just going to eat away at you. It's kind of similar to the whole weight on someone. It's that makes it one-sided, because someone's not getting something out of a relationship that they should have, and the other person needs to know that. And I think when you're talking about issues as well in a relationship, it's not a you're doing this wrong. It should be a how can we fix this together, when you really want to make things last in the long run. Thank you, YouTube videos. And I don't know, as Minnesotans, I think we're bred to often be, you know, passive aggressive sometimes. I feel like it's a pretty Minnesotan thing. It's just like, oh, we're just not going to say anything, or we're just going to like quietly do something. And so a lot of us get very good at it. It's not good to do that in a relationship. You know, just clock each other. Come on, like just like hit them right there on the spot with it. Like, be honest, because it's not going to be good for either of you in the long run if you keep it in. But there is a way you can be nice about it, and that just comes with, I think, experience and learning social cues, understanding how to critique someone on something.
I actually agree with you so much. I know, one thing that I know is that it's a lot better if something is bothering you, even if it's not something that's a big deal, you should still say it. Because if you don't say it, you'll just stew on it and it will become a bigger and bigger thing. And then you'll end up snapping about something else that's not related because you've been stewing on this for so long. So I think the ideal scenario is for you to bring it up while it's still a small thing for you. And then for that other person to tell you, I acknowledge what you're saying, but that's not really a big deal. And then you have to accept that. Sometimes it's not going to be a big deal. Sometimes it actually is a valid complaint and you can work on it together. But sometimes it's like, okay, I mean, come on, get over it a little bit, right? But at least you got it out and you got that closure and that conversation out of it.
Yeah.
And then another thing about the sort of different faces that you show. It's very interesting. And this honesty and directness sort of direction that we're going in, I understand that part of life is not being fully direct and sort of hiding your intentions or what you really feel. A lot of times that's a situation that just happens in life. And people are going to always do that to you. Very rarely are people ever going to be fully honest with you and give you directly how they feel about something. I feel that happens extremely rarely. And it's very difficult for people to relinquish their control and be so vulnerable in giving you their full honest feelings or what they're going through at the time. But I hate that. I'm someone who wishes that we could all be very honest all the time. And a lot of times I try to dispense with that, like, just tell me how you really feel.
Yeah.
I just want you to tell me. Why do I have to play this game where I guess how you feel? Just tell me. And then we can figure it out. But I acknowledge that that's impossible. But I try to not put other people in that situation, Someone told me recently, a good friend of ours, told me, you just have to be brave one time. You just have to be brave and say how you feel one time. And that's sort of like how I feel is, as long as I can be honest and genuine and true most of the time, even if it's just one time, that would be enough to sort of get your feelings across. And that's why confessing is so hard, because you're so vulnerable and it's hard to be honest with someone because you don't know how they're going to respond. But if I can just do it one time, then it'll be easier the next time and the time after that. Even if you get rejected 100 times, at least you'll be less scared of being rejected every single time. If you were able to build up your courage enough to just power through one time, and you're able to do it again the next time, doesn't that just prove to yourself that you're strong enough to handle it and just keep going after it? So, one thing that you brought up to me is a thought of what would happen if you put all of the energy that you normally put into a romantic relationship into a friendship.
So I had that thought recently, and this was along the same vein of growing while you're single. So if you're in a position right now and you're single, and I'm someone who's very much romanticized the thought of being in a relationship. I'm on my stint of longest singleness for a long time. And so using this time to grow has been really beneficial, and there's still a lot more growth to happen. And so part of that is, what if you use all the love you'd give to a person in a relationship, you gave that energy to your closest friends, and just thinking about how fulfilled you would still be in those relationships in that time in life, and growing these bonds with the closest people in your life would just be an amazing experience. And there's so many experiences to be had from that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. There's this concept that was introduced to me. It's this Greek word called agape, which is a type of love.
Sorry,
a type of love where you love everyone, and it's sort of a love without boundaries. It's sort of this, no matter who they are, you'll love them. And that I love that concept of, we are able to love everyone around us, and even if you don't like them, you still love them. You still care about everyone's well-being. You would treat them as you would a family member, even despite the fact that you might not like the way that they're acting towards you. And I think that's very similar to what you're thinking of putting 100% of your energy into your friendships as well. It's sort of the same idea of, what if you were able to fully love the people around you?
You hit the nail on the head with that, Johnny. I love that. I just imagine being a fulfilled person, just comfortable in yourself enough to just love a wide range of people around you. And I just feel like it makes you just a more open person. And that word agape, I love that. I agree. Do you got anything else?
I think that's about where we should wrap it up. And in the meantime, I love you, homie.
I love you too, brother. Thank you all for watching this episode of the Better Friends Podcast. We are available on Spotify, got rejected by Apple Podcasts. We're figuring that out. And we're available on YouTube, and we're on Twitch. Check us out on Facebook. We'll see you next week on Monday. Thanks for watching.
Peace.